even if Harsha's murder is not linked to the ongoing hijab protests and the polarized opinions that they have drawn, one thing cannot be denied. In the last 3 months, this part of Karnataka, coastal Karnataka, has seen a huge divide, actively fueled by those working behind the scenes. So what is the reason that beautiful Mangalore belt, the placid coastal area, is suddenly convulsed by waves of violence and unrest? Explains the tension in the recent past, especially in the Dakshin Kannada region. Joining us now is Mr. Ram Madhav. So let me start by asking you, because the conversation now is about how this area has been for long known as the laboratory for Hindutva politics. Does that explain why there has been so much tension of late, first over hijab and now the stabbing of a young man from the Bajrang Dal?
Look, this is a usual practice of the apologists of radical Islamism, that every time tensions develop, they brand that region is the laboratory of Hindutva. Earlier Gujarat was laboratory, and for some time Uttar Pradesh was laboratory. Now Karnataka is laboratory. Actually, this has now become the laboratory of hardline, radical, regressive Wahhabist Islam. That is what happening in North Kerala, which is spilling over into coastal Karnataka. And let me also state that today even Uttar Pradesh is having its repercussions. Yesterday one of our pracharaks was attacked in Kanpur merely for discussing with his colleagues about the hijab law. He was not even talking in front of any Muslim audience or anybody. So this is actually a new laboratory of radical Islam. That is what is happening in South today.
Why is there suddenly this growth of radical Islam, as you call it, in Karnataka?
No, not suddenly. Not suddenly. For some time now, even our agencies at the national level have been concerned about the rise of radical Islam in northern parts of Kerala. And the number of people that have gone and joined in, terror groups like ISIS and all from those areas are all under the radar of our agencies. This is a phenomena that has been going on for some years now. Unfortunately, in Kerala, there is a government in that state which sees a political benefit, political advantage in going slow or soft on these forces, if not pandering to them for mere survival politically. That's the reason why these forces are gaining strength day by day. Last year, towards the end of last year, they celebrated Mopla rebellion as though it was a great victory for the Ummah. This kind of radicalist ideology was again propagated during the celebrations of Mopla rebellion towards the end of last year. So this phenomenon is going on for some time now. It is very important that now that it is spreading to other parts, it's important that we do how to check it.
So, okay, if the Kerala government is going soft on terror, and that is why you've got the growing influence of SDPI, PFI and other Wahhabist elements, like you said, what explains the constant violence and communal attacks in Dakshin Kannada, in areas like Udupi, for example? In fact, today Mysuru MP Pratap Simha has said, if Hindu activists are not safe under a BJP government, where will they be safe? Who's responsible for the attacks in Dakshin Kannada?
This Dakshin Kannada belt, basically coastal Karnataka, which is essentially very close, geographically very close to northern Kerala region of Kannur, Malappuram, Kozhikode, this belt, where the radical Islamist groups like PFI, SDPI have a strong hold, strong base. This area, coastal Karnataka, has been simmering for quite some time because of the spread of these radicalist Islamist ideas into the community in this area. Don't we remember the arrest of Riyaj Bhatkal and others from that area for their direct terror links 20 years ago? They were involved in bomb blasts and all. So this region has been under the growing influence of these radicals, and that's the reason why we see these kind of unfortunate incidents happening. I mean, gruesome murders happening now.
Has the government been
surprises me is the silence of our great champions.
You think the government has been soft, sir? There was been repeated killings. There is the murder of Rudresh, which was blamed on PFI, and now of Harsha.
A government in the state, I do think that it is trying to control the situation, but what I am trying to say is these developments are not happening overnight today. There has been this simmering tension in that region for many years now. It is basically coming from parts of Kerala, and that is influencing the whole situation in coastal Karnataka, which is a very serious situation. But the silence of the liberals, that's what I am coming to. Why, those who champion freedom of expression, free speech, etc., etc., today you don't find them talking about the killing of innocent Hindu youths or attacks on RSS pracharaks in Uttar Pradesh. This silence is what emboldens these terrorist forces.
What do you think is behind the entire hijab controversy? The children are saying, or those backing them are saying, that it was a simple issue of choice. The government could have just given them a little leeway and said, all right, just like Kendriya Vidyalayas allow hijab inside the classroom, you also do it. But they did not relent, and the children were caught in the crossfire.
Firstly, it is this whole argument about choice is an utterly flawed argument. Your choice ends where certain regulations begin. You cannot have choice of driving your car on the right side of the road because you say that it's my choice. So it's not choice where there are regulations we are expected to follow. Okay, suppose if some other institution is allowing you to wear burqa or wear hijab, wear it. If in a madrasa it is allowed, wear it. But when there is a regulation, to say that no, I don't follow that regulation, and you then invoke the name of religion where? In Islam, you can ask any number of Muslim scholars. They say that it is not mandatory. Islamic countries are saying it is not mandatory. But a regressive version, medieval version is brought into discourse here and start to push our girls, innocent or misled girls, into believing that it is a religious practice, which it is not. So this is not about choice. This is about imposing a regressive practice, medieval practice on gullible women, gullible young girls.
It's also interesting that the Karnataka Government's council in court has brought up the Sabrimala judgment, saying that in the Sabrimala judgment, constitutional morality was upheld. Then that same principle must be allowed and must be applied to the hijab argument. It's not just about personal freedoms, it's also about constitutional morality. Do you see a dichotomy there, where constitutional morality was held supreme in Sabrimala and allowing women inside, but in hijab we talk about choice?
Okay, you and me should not be talking about matters that are sub judice. What is happening in the courtroom, let it happen there. But I must tell you about this constitutional morality issue. Yes, on the question of constitutional morality, ethics, on that your personal choice, personal freedom, all these should become subservient to larger constitutional morality. In front of that, our personal choices, they simply do not matter. As I gave you the example, if there is a rule, you and I are bound to follow it. So where my nose begins, your choice ends there simply.
Finally, I want to ask you, sir, in this Karnataka belt, last 3 months we first saw the hijab protests and now a murder. Do you think the two are linked?
Rising tensions, for whatever reasons, are a reality in coastal Karnataka today. And some people try to, brush it aside by saying that it is all political, some election related or some local political issues are the reason for this. I don't think so. There is a growing dogma, medieval Islamist dogma in some regions of Kerala, which is spilling over into adjoining regions like coastal Karnataka. This dogma is what needs to be tackled with utmost forthrightness by not just critics like us, but the liberal, open-minded Muslim eminences themselves. They have to decide what kind of Islam they want here in this country. Is it the medieval, regressive, anti-woman Orthodox Islam, or a progressive version of it, which has space for all sorts of opinion, which has space for different religions to coexist? That kind of very liberal interpretation of Islam, where hijab doesn't mean covering from head to toe, but it means dressing in a dignified manner. Today the tragedy is opposition leaders are saying hijab and bikini both are symbols of choice. Do you mean to say, I am asking the opposition leaders, that one can wear a bikini and go to a classroom? Should schools allow in the name of choice that also? So these kind of libtard arguments need to be rejected by eminent, learned, liberal Muslim leaders also. It is the need of the hour. It's not just a question of some Hindu or Muslim fight. It is a larger question of what kind of civil society we need to build.
But since you spoke of dogma, the counter to that would be there is also a larger Hindu dogma that is growing in proportion. For every SDPI, there is also a very militant Bajrang Dal.
Not true at all. There is... I mean, if you are saying for a PFI, there is a reaction in some section of Hindu community, this is what one has to be careful about. Extremism begets extremism. Radicalism leads to another kind of radicalism. We all have to together prevent both. No type of radicalism should be allowed in this country. But I must tell you, there is big Hindutva movement in this country, which is completely abiding by the constitution of this country. It respects the identity of nation state. It respects patriotism. That kind of a cultural movement, it should not be equated with some sporadic incidents here and there. And again I am saying, if some other kind of fundamentalism is rising its head as a response to this kind of Wahhabist fundamentalism, let us condemn both of them, put an end to both. But let us not show one thing as a justification to other thing.
Absolutely. That really is the idea at this point. Fundamentalism of any shade must be cracked down on, and peace and sense should prevail in Karnataka. Thank you very much, Mr. Ram Madhav, for having spoken to us.
Thank you.